The sky above Vardros was a furnace, its clouds thick with burning ash and debris from orbital bombardments. The Dominion's fleet drifted in the upper atmosphere, confident that nothing could have survived their cleansing fire. The ground below told another story. Amid the glowing ruins, a blackened metal hand clawed its way out of molten soil. Commander Aric Kane gasped for air, dragging himself free of the wreckage. His armor was cracked, visor flickering, but his eyes burned with something stronger than pain: rage. Around him, the dead lay silent, both alien and human, their war having turned the once thriving world into a graveyard. A low hum echoed through the smoke as a battered dropship rose from a crater, its engines coughing sparks. Aric limped toward it, his comm crackling with faint human voices. "Commander, we're alive, barely, systems failing, but we can fly." He climbed aboard, greeted by hollow-eyed survivors, men and women bearing the scars of war, the last remnants of a once mighty human fleet. The Dominion believed they had finished humanity off after the siege of Sol. They were wrong. The fire hadn't been extinguished. It had been tempered. As the dropship rose through the smoke, Aric looked down at the shattered cities of Vardros, human colonies that had fallen defending a dream of freedom. His fists clenched. "They think we're dead," he said quietly, staring through the cracked glass of the cockpit. "Let's make sure they regret believing that." The dropship broke atmosphere, passing through clouds laced with lightning and debris. Above, Dominion frigates patrolled lazily, unaware of the wounded predator slipping beneath them. Aric's crew rerouted power from life support to the stealth grid, forcing cold air to fill their lungs, every breath like ice. "For Earth," whispered one of the soldiers, pressing a faded insignia to her chest. Aric nodded, a faint grim smile on his face. "For Earth," he echoed. The stars opened before them, an endless ocean of darkness and forgotten glory. Behind them Vardros burned like a funeral pyre. Ahead, a promise awaited, a reckoning. Humanity had been hunted, scattered, erased from records. But now, as the dropship disappeared into the void, one truth burned brighter than any star: the Barbarians had survived, and soon the galaxy would remember their name. The asteroid fortress known as Grendel's Maw drifted in the cold dark, a jagged mass of rock hollowed out and turned into a refuge for ghosts. Its corridors were dimly lit by scavenged Dominion lights, flickering blue and red across steel walls patched with human hands. Commander Aric Kane stepped out of his dropship, boots echoing against metal as armed sentries turned their rifles toward him. Then, recognizing the insignia on his armor, the faded crest of Earth's 9th Legion, they lowered their weapons and saluted. Humanity was fractured, scattered among the stars, but here, in this forsaken pit, a spark remained. Inside the command chamber, the smell of oil, ozone, and recycled air hung thick. Dozens of survivors gathered: engineers, smugglers, deserters, even former Dominion slaves who had chosen the side of their old enemies. Aric stood before them, his scarred face illuminated by a single holographic map showing the outer colonies. Red marks glowed where human settlements once existed. Every one of them had been burned. He let the silence stretch, then spoke in a voice that cut through the stale air. "We've spent too long hiding, waiting, begging for scraps. That ends today." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some looked uncertain, others defiant. One old mechanic leaned forward, grease smeared on his face. "You're talking about war, Commander. Against the Dominion? With what army?" Aric's jaw tightened. "With us," he said. "We may not have fleets, but we have rage, we have ingenuity, we have the will to fight, and that's something the Dominion can't replicate." He revealed salvaged Dominion blueprints projected above. The table: schematics for plasma reactors, warp drives, and kinetic cannons. "They call us savages," he continued. "Barbarians. Let's remind them what that word truly means." The room erupted in a chorus of voices. Some shouted in agreement. Others slammed fists against metal in support. In that moment, a pact was born: the Tyrant Covenant, an alliance of scattered human tribes bound not by nations or creeds, but by vengeance. They would strike where the enemy felt safest, bleed them from within their empire, and reclaim the respect that had been stolen from their kind. As the meeting ended, Aric gazed through a viewport at the distant stars. Somewhere out there the Dominion watched complacently, believing humanity broken. He smiled coldly. "Let them sleep easy," he whispered. "Their nightmares begin soon." The Helion gate hung in orbit above a dying red dwarf, its vast ring-shaped fortress glimmering like a crown of cold steel. It was the Dominion's most fortified stronghold in the Outer Rim, a station built to guard trade routes and crush rebellion before it could ever rise. The Barbarians saw it as something else, a message. Destroying it would tell the galaxy that humanity was no longer a ghost but a storm reborn. Commander Aric Kane stood on the bridge of the Ironclad, humanity's first rebuilt warship, its hull welded from scavenged Dominion wrecks and old Earth alloys. "Target in range," his second-in-command whispered. Aric's eyes narrowed. "Then we wake them up." The Ironclad surged from the asteroid shadows, accompanied by a swarm of smaller human raiders. No shields, no cloaks, just speed and fury. The Dominion defense grid blinked to life, firing lances of plasma through the void. One human ship disintegrated instantly, its crew dying in silence. But the others pressed on, weaving through the storm with terrifying precision. The humans had learned long ago that fear was a weapon more powerful than any cannon. Inside the station, Dominion officers barked orders, disbelief in their voices. "Primitive vessels can't breach our perimeter," one hissed. Seconds later, a human boarding pod slammed through the hull, tearing open a corridor. Aric led the charge, armored boots thundering against the deck. Bullets roared through the sterile halls while alien plasma hissed and burned the walls around them. The humans didn't fight with coordination. They fought with desperation, with raw instinct. Every fallen comrade only pushed the survivors harder. They reached the fusion core chamber, a pulsating sphere of energy humming at the heart of the fortress. Aric planted a charge, his gloved hand trembling slightly. "For Earth," he muttered. The explosion ripped through Helion Gate like a scream of vengeance, turning metal and bone into stardust. From orbit, the Ironclad pulled away as the station's rings split apart, light spilling into the void like a second sunrise. Aric activated the ship's transmitter, his voice echoing across Dominion channels. "You called us extinct," he said coldly. "Khated now destroys my strongholds?" The officer nodded once, terror-stricken. A moment later, a sonic pulse from the Emperor's staff silenced him forever. The guards dragged the body away, leaving the chamber echoing with quiet dread. The Emperor turned to his advisors. "You said they were extinct," he hissed. "Explain to me how ghosts command fleets." One of the advisors, an ancient scholar, stepped forward cautiously. "Majesty, there were rumors. Genetic archives suggest that humans were not entirely wiped out. Their physiology was altered, engineered during their wars to endure radiation, starvation, even void exposure. If any survived, they would be different." The Emperor's gaze drifted to the burning red marks spreading across the map. "Different," he repeated, his tone laced with something that almost sounded like fear. Across the stars, intercepted transmissions played recordings of human voices, taunts, battle cries, and the chilling sign-off Aric Kane had broadcast to Remember Earth. That phrase alone was enough to send shockwaves through the Dominion's colonies. Workers whispered it in secret, soldiers muttered it before sleep, and for the first time in generations, the Empire's citizens began to doubt their invincibility. The Emperor rose from his throne and approached the massive window overlooking the shining sprawl of Valtharian Prime. "Prepare the War Council," he commanded. "Summon every fleet. Humanity will not rise again." But as he stared into the endless void, he could not shake the image of fire, metal, and screaming stars. Deep down, he knew the truth no ruler dared to admit. Something unstoppable had awakened, and the galaxy would soon remember why the name human once made even empires tremble.